Right, hello and welcome. So this is my turbocharged ST150. I'm trying to turn up the boost, but there's a few things I need to sort out before I can do that. Now, this car has got an MTX gearbox fitted to it, which is different from the original IB5 gearbox, so that the gearbox is much stronger and can handle the extra torque that's produced now that the turbo's fitted. And I'm getting a little bit of a noise when taking right hand corners quite sharply. The problem that I've got is lack of space for the drive shaft. Now, I did everything that I could when I made the engine mounts to give as much clearance as I can, but it appears it's not quite enough. And I'm seeing spilt grease and a damaged clip on the CV joint, the inner CV joint that is. So I'm fairly certain it's contacting the subframe. So what I need to do is remove the subframe and just modify it slightly to allow for more clearance in for the drive shaft to spin, and that should hopefully clear up all my noises. As a side note, some large axle stands and a big jack. Definitely worth it, because I can get underneath this car now very easily on my back, and plenty of room underneath here. It's nothing worse than crawling around on the floor, not being able to get underneath the car. As you can see, all of the grease is spilled out of this inner joint. In fact, you can see, you might be able to see, the clip is actually just loose in there now where it's been smashed off. So yeah, as you can see, no clearance. I'm going to drop this subframe out and see what I can do to make it a little bit better. Now, my Renault Dogbone link is holding up just fine, it seems, although the bolt's looking a bit worse for wear. I've not got a single spot of oil underneath the engine, but I have got a broken mount right through the weld there. So yeah, that obviously, this pipe can obviously take that, so I'm gonna have to address that while I'm here as a nice little side project. But yeah, let's continue taking this subframe out one thing at a time. Right, there we go, subframe out on the floor. We can just see the mess now that is made here. Just grease and slime everywhere. There's the old clip. It's obviously been smashed off. It's been contacting. If we have a look here, we can see nice there are some markings on the subframe here. So it's definitely been making contact. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this cleaned up. Probably pop these arms off of it and get it over on the bench and see what I'm going to do about it. Okay. Right, okay, so here we have it. There's the damage that we can see on the subframe here. So it gives me a good witness mark to how much clearance it actually needs. Now obviously, lower arm needs to be in around here, so I'm not going to come too far over. Essentially what I'm going to do, I think, is chop out a bit of a triangle down here and then lower it down, and then sort of shape a bit of metal back in there to fill it back in. So I'm hoping we're fairly straightforward. Now while it's out, I'm also going to address some other bits. This looks a little bit tatty where I welded the mount in when I was laid on my back, so I'll probably clean all this up. I might chop this old area off and make a new mount for the gearbox there, and yeah, just give it a bit of a wipe over, I think. I did have this powder coated probably 10 years ago now, and you can see there's some areas that are starting to flake, but overall it's actually in pretty good nick. So whether or not I get it re-powder coated with all the modifications that I do, depending on how carried away I get, or if I just give it a bit of a paint, time will tell on that one. But first things first is going to be chopping up this arm and making some clearance. So I'm putting a washer, which is the same size as the lower arm bush, just in the hole. And I know that I have to leave as much subframe for this to fit. So as I can take off loads of this section, it turns out, to give me the clearance. So I'm just going to mark up some bits and yeah, start chopping it up. So as you've seen, I've just knocked up a bit of a plate to make up to fit into the recess I've cut out. Should give plenty of clearance. You can see from the inside it will then be able to weld to the inner structure as well. So it'll all be welded together. If I just pop this out, you can see on the inside the washer, which represents the wishbone bush. There's still plenty of clearance for the wishbone to bolt in and move around. So it just needs a little bit of a clean up and remove all this powder coating, and then I can make up a plate to fit into there. Right, so after cutting out the template of that little bit of the CAD there, I've now got my metal shaped and in place. It's fitting pretty good really for the angles I got. What I'll do is probably just weld it in and then just clamp it in and just remove any of the gaps. But to be fair, there's barely anything anyway. So yeah, I haven't got any etch primer, so I'm going to need to get some of that. Some weld through stuff, and I'll just give it a spray inside and on the back here where I can't get to, and then I can get it in place. Right, so I've welded the plate in and I've just knocked the tops off of all the welds. I haven't gone smooth with it, just in case it takes away some of the strength. So it's still, majority of it's there, but I've just smoothed it down to just look a little bit tidier once it's all painted over. Right, now that is scorching hot, so I can wait for that to cool down, get it coated in paint, and then I can look at this monstrosity. So what's the plan of attack with this thing then? So what I need to do, obviously, is remove this. Now, if I do that, I will lose the positioning of the mount bracket. So what I need to do is make up a little dummy piece, or like a jig, so to speak, to put in here, and yeah, just to keep the hole aligned. Obviously, to that when that goes on, it will be about the same place it is, but this time. So let me knock some up quickly, then I can go about cutting this thing off. Okay, so I'm about to remove this. Now I was going to make a jig to relocate these holes in exactly the same spot, but I do want to push these back just another few mil and up a little bit. And there isn't that much room I can go if I put the holder in there before it bottoms out anyway. You can see the hole. So I'm limited to the position of this anyway. And then what I've done is I've just made a couple of little incisions at the bottom here, and that will let's see it, but yeah, there's a couple of incisions, and that will line my blocks up. As long as I make the part I'm putting on with this for spacing, it should be fine. So I'm going to get this chopped off. So we've got a simple little template made. Whether I leave it as just the two pieces here, there we go, that will just, as you can see how it just fit in there. Yeah, whether it's these two pieces, or I have cut up an additional piece that I can weld on the top to add more strength to it. I don't know if that would be needed, to be honest with you. Get some good weld around there, and obviously down in here and along the bottom there. So I think that's probably all that's needed, but I'll get those bits welded in, and then well, I'll cut them out of metal first and then get them welded in, and then we'll see how we go from there. So I think I've been wearing the welding mask a little bit too long. It's finally done. I've got it now in etch primer, and yeah, I'm just waiting for it to dry off so I can get some actual paint on it. I was thinking about powder coating it, but in case I need to make any alterations, I'm going to run with it as it is. And then, as long as that's okay and it comes off again later down the road, I'll get it powder coated at that point in time. So yeah, just waiting for that to dry and I'll get it painted. Okay, now onto this boost pipe. Now, this is some of my early days of aluminium welding, and some of it is pretty bad. Or what I'm probably going to do, just because it's nice, quick and easy, is just clean up the welds, probably grind them down a little bit to hide all the sins, and remake the mounting on this. I'll probably cut this one off, smooth it all back, and then underneath the car, or the engine, there were some more mounting points that I can use to just make it a little bit easier, but I'll show you that when I'm under the car. So this boost pipe, now this is where I originally mounted it, but what I'm going to do is switch it. I got some mounting points up here. I think it's an aircon compressor mounts from a different style that uses this engine, or a different car. So I'm going to get a bracket that goes from here and across and then out, and then I'm going to rubber mount the pipe when it's in this position. I think it's because it was all hard mounted and there was no flex, then obviously that was causing the issue. So yeah, I'll make something up. Now I can't obviously tie it fully back in until I got the subframe in, which I'm obviously just waiting for the paint to dry on. So I've been rummaging around in all of the spare parts that I've got, and what I've come up with is I've got a couple of bolts with shoulders on that screw into the sump, into those mounting holes, which have got then a head and a second stud. I've then got these little grommets here, which fit over the nut. Okay. So I've done a test hole in just a bit of metal, see if it works. And I can put the grommet in the hole. This will obviously then screw in there. That's a nice tight fit. And then I can put a washer, which will clamp up to the top of the head, so it's not completely crushing this rubber grommet. And then when that's all together, there is movement. That will allow that bracket to move, so it's not firmly mounted. And then from the metal that I make to the pipe, I'll probably use a P-clip, and that again can move and flex, and should it break, it's easy to replace a P-clip than it is to do more welding. Okay, so this is this bracket on. As you can see, the washer's now bottom out against the nut on this stud, and it allows some movement here with it all tight. So I need to obviously put a hole or a fixing point in this end, but as I don't know where the pipe is going to sit yet, I'm just going to have to wait till it's back on. So yeah, let's get this subframe back on, and then I will get on finishing off this boost pipe. And there we have a completed subframe. So we've got a new mount on there for obviously the little dog bone, some clearance in there, and all painted up. So it looks way better than this hideous contraption that was just adapted onto the old unit before. Doesn't stick out any further in depth than it, so it should be fine for clearance. Right, okay, so I think, oh no, I need to repair the drive shaft boot, put that back on, and then I can get this subframe back in the car. Right, let's have a little look, see. So, it's all gone on okay. So, if dog mount is all on, that fits, plenty of clearance in around there, so that's good. But the main thing, the drive shaft, and you can see now we've got acres of room there. Let's finish off this boost pipe then, and we can call this task done. Okay, so the bracket's on, and I've just wrapped some cable ties to hold the pipe on. As it's got the flex in the bracket itself, and the pipe is obviously attached with the silicone joiners at either end, it's only really there to catch if one of these pipes pop out. So if that pops out, this isn't then just hanging on the floor. So we'll see how it holds up. Yeah, let's look from the top. I did try and tart up these welds a little bit, but yeah, it's like polishing a turd really. What was there was so bad before. Just try to make it look a bit better. Okay, so that's the subframe sorted. That is the boost pipe sorted, which was obviously a nice little surprise that I found underneath. So yeah, we're all cooking on gas, as they say. So in the next video, I think we're going to be opening up this box. So yeah, that should be fun. So yeah, if you like what you saw, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.